Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Swing State Update. My name is Tyler Boyer. We are missing Representative Austin Smith, who is out today on vacation, so he'll be out. Excited to have him back next week. But we're joined today by two very special guests and Turning Point Action full-time staff members here with us, and some of our most critical staff. First and foremost, the wonderful, the beautiful Cuban princess from South Beach, Driena Sixto. Welcome, Driena. It's nice to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
She's our Eastern manager that covers the southeastern portion of the United States and does a tremendous job, and has actually been one of our longest tenured Turning Point ecosystem staff, both at USA and followed me over here at Action just about almost 2 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels like it's just went by very, very quickly. But since 2016, I've been in the Turning Point circle, and it's my second family, and I'm very thankful for it.
Driena has the privilege of being one of the only people who can say she was at one of our very first events in South Florida, which we used to call the Student Action Summit, winter in West Palm Beach. And she was there when we used to hold it inside the foyer of a Holiday Inn. So, for all the people who are always like, Turning Point spends too much money on their events. It's like, well, first of all of our events are paid for by sponsors and by ticket sales. But we will do events as cheaply as we need to. We've done them in Holiday Inns, and we'll do them as cool as we need to, when people will pay for and sponsor it. So she has that executive privilege here on the team of being one of the OGs. So we're excited to have you with us and excited to talk, the events that happened in South Florida this week. And our second guest is all the way from Wisconsin, the wonderful Chairman Malley, who is the youngest chairman, one of the youngest chairmen of a major county in all of the United States, but certainly in Wisconsin. We're excited to have you. He's the chairman of Dane County, but also one of our OG staff members actually in Wisconsin. Brandon, we're happy to have you.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, man, it's just such a great day. So we got Arizona, Florida, and Wisconsin represented. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about, first and foremost, the debate that happened this week. So on Wednesday, there was the third RNC debate. And as a national committee member, we'll give you a little bit of context with that. We'll talk a little bit with the team here about what their thoughts are. We'll talk with Driena about what happened down the road in Hialeah. We will then jump into Wisconsin, talk a little bit with Brandon about Megan Wolfe and the lackluster leadership that's happening there with getting her ousted and replaced. And then lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about electioneering through 2024, how we win next year, and why Kentucky looks a lot like Arizona. So let's jump right into it. So first, let's go ahead and kick to that opening clip with that was Vivek's opening statement at the debate last night. Clip 1.
Swami, let me turn to you. Please make your case. Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party.
Oh, man, there's so much to hit here. Thoughts from you guys first. Yeah. Driena, ladies first.
Oh my gosh, he opened it up with a bang. Honestly, the most epic drop that I have heard before that one was Donald Trump's because he'd be in jail. At least that was the reaction around people when I first saw that. That was like, oh my gosh, he's going for the carotid. But he pretty much is saying what is on everybody's mind, which is the truth that, unfortunately, we're not addressing the real root of the problem in the Republican Party, and that is a lot of failed leadership. And we're just sick and tired of losing. And later on in the debate, he goes after pretty much everybody else up on that stage, and he's got something on every single one of them. I feel like he is the voice of the MAGA base within that debate stage. He makes sure not to go after Donald Trump supporters, because I feel like a lot of us, like myself personally, I'm supporting Donald Trump for president, but I like Vivek because everything that he says on that stage, I happen to agree with. That's why just a few days back, I was at a local event he did here also in Miami, because he knows what the true Republican, true America First base is. So yeah, that was great. That was a great start.
Well, and this is like the crazy part. So, he's kind of saying everything that everyone is thinking, but nobody really has the guts to say. And this was the whole conversation with DeSantis. So remember, DeSantis kind of waded in when Ronna was running for re-election. It was like, Harmeet's pretty great. And like, there's a big difference between him being like, Harmeet's pretty great, and like the tone and tenor that Vivek had last night. Brandon, what'd you think about that? Or what was your reaction to Vivek's opening statement?
Well, I thought that timing was everything. Vivek was speaking the day after we did not have a very good 2023 election, and he struck a chord. So everyone is quick to make Trump the scapegoat. Trump is the reason that we're losing elections.
Yep.
Vivek struck a chord with everyone in the party that doesn't believe that to be true. And the root of the problem is the lack of infrastructure in the Republican Party to get the low propensity voters out, to chase ballots, and then also the RNC's bad data, number one, and relying on a consultant class that has failed us time and time again. So Vivek really struck a chord last night. I know a lot of establishmentarians are very upset, and they're going to push for the requirements for the next debate to be high enough to keep him out, because they don't want that kind of a voice to a national audience.
Oh yeah, they're so afraid of him. Oh, I love that, establishmentarian. I always call it the Chamber of Consultants. The Chamber of Consultants, establishmentarians. I love that. Yeah, they're not going to want Vivek back here. And here's the point of what he said. He said two things that were really important. One is that people are tired of losing, like Driena said. And two, he went on in that clip to say, like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we at an NBC? Why are you forcing me to show up to an NBC debate? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm an outsider. I don't have any fear of repercussions. I'm not currently governor. I'm not, trying to run for anything ever again. I just want to impact this race, with my own personal wealth, which is what he's done at a young age. He's my age, by the way. 1985, Benny Johnson's age. He's my age. We're right in the same category in that same era. And he just wants to impact America for the good using his own personal wealth. And you've got all these guys up here that are too scared to say anything. And so he gets up. Ronna's sitting front row. So he's like literally looking at her, right? So Ronna McDaniel, who's the chair of the RNC, is like there. And this guy has the gumption to say, come up and I'll give you some of my time so you can resign right now. Like, that's wild stuff. Like, this stuff has never happened before, ever in the history of the party. This is why this is reminiscent of like Trump of 2016, because when Trump did stuff, like, remember, he was like, he did things that people were like, this has never happened before. I love this dude. And what Vivek is doing is he's doing things that have never happened before. And right off the bat, again, this is what happened with Trump. People were like, I didn't really like how he said like Megyn Kelly had blood squirting out of places, right? Like, remember that? Remember when he said that? I can't remember. I think it was Megyn Kelly in that
Blood
debate.
out of her eyes or whatever.
Or whatever, right? Like, and that, it's kind of crude. And people were like, oh my gosh, that's disqualified. People are doing the same thing with Vivek right now. And he's not saying crude things. He's saying things that are just very real that people want to hear. And I think the repercussions of this is like, we're never going to go back. Like, Vivek's star is born, and he's gonna have staying power within the Republican base for a long time if he doesn't screw it up. I don't know. What do you think?
I think he's doing correctly what other candidates, especially someone like Ron DeSantis, have been trying to do. I feel like ever since the appearance of Donald Trump in the political stage, politics has changed forever and for the better. It's a lot more entertaining, right? People our age now tune in because, you don't have this weird political lingo. And if there's a candidate that can kind of portray the same political messages in a way that people laugh about it, it's very straightforward, that's the candidate they're going to veer towards. I feel like, for example, I'm from Florida, so I've followed our governor, DeSantis, for a while. I think he's got really good policies, and the way he's done things in Florida have been pretty good for the most part. He's been trying to emulate, the way Trump talks and his mannerisms, and, he's trying to be based, right? Every politician out there now is trying to connect with the young people, but for some, it just comes out more naturally than others. And that's definitely the case for Vivek. He comes off as very authentic. In person, he's very, very personable, not stiff, not anything like that. And so I think that's why we're naturally gravitating towards him. A lot of people I've heard would prefer him as the VP candidate. Like, that would be their number one choice. I personally don't know yet about that. But he's gotten into the good graces of the MAGA base that don't want to hear boring political lingo anymore.
Dude, how cool would it be to have a millennial VP? Like, how freaking sick would that be? It'd be so cool.
Absolutely.
I would love that. I would love that for our Turning Point events too, because he would be all up in our Turning Point events, which he usually is. Yeah. Let's cut. So I'm going to give some background here deeply here. And this is, since we have a party chair of one of the most important counties in the country on with us today, and I'm on the RNC, and I know, Driena, you're super involved with the party where you're at with YRs in Florida. Let's take a look at this next clip at what happened immediately after the end of the debate. We got clip 2.
It looks like he's speaking now to Ronna McDaniel. Can't make her out exactly, but it looks like they may be having the exchange. Look, this was a big debate. Vivek came out here. He attacked the moderators. He attacked the media. He attacked the RNC for setting up this debate the way it was. And for a lot of the debate, he was on the attack. It was Vivek first, the rest of the room. When we look at the rest of the candidates and who received a lot of that incoming, we start with Nikki Haley. It then goes to Governor Ron DeSantis, who was center stage, of course, the hometown hero, if you will, in his state of Florida. And then Vivek in third place, getting other attacks as well. But he clearly was on.
Okay, so the drama is going to ensue here. And what happened was he gets done, and then Ronna bullets straight from probably her chair right in front and goes, I already know how this is, because I have the unfortunate position being on the RNC where I am front row center, because Arizona is the first A words. So I have to look at Ronna directly in the front row whenever I go to RNC meetings. So the distance between me and her is probably the same distance between her and Vivek last night. And she made a bullet to him. And what was said, what was heard over her. This comes from Cassandra over at Timcast. She's wonderful. So what was said was that a source who was sitting near the GOP chairwoman tonight at tonight's debate told Timcast News that she called Vivek an asshole and declared that the party would not be giving him 1 cent. quote, he's an asshole, total asshole, McDaniel said. He's desperate because he's doing bad in polls. He won't be getting his cent from us, unquote. She also loudly booed him during his exchange with Nikki Haley. According to the one person sitting nearby, she was, quote, in complete meltdown mode over Vivek, unquote, the source said. This was in the middle of the audience with an earshot of at least 50 people. Wow. And if you've listened to with Charlie and us, we've said this before. There's not very many people that show up to these debates. The RNC does a really terrible job. They don't want a ton of people for this reason, probably because we have a chair that can't control herself. But this has never happened before. She's literally booing a candidate that's one of our top tier presidential candidates. I mean, this is like top 5, guys. This is like the end of Willy Wonka's tour here, and there's like 4 kids left. Vivek's one of them. Donald Trump's not even there, so who knows what kind of implosion she would have if Donald Trump was there. But Vivek calls her out. She bullet lines to him and basically threatens him and loudly threatens him around everyone, saying that we wouldn't give him a cent. It's not her money. This is donor money that's coming into the RNC. This is not Ronna's money. If Vivek was our candidate, our nominee, I don't think he's going to be. I think Donald Trump's going to be. But if Vivek was our nominee, that's the job of the RNC is to work with him, to jointly fundraise, to give him money, to work together, to get him elected.
So I have to chime in because the whole notion that the RNC is not going to give him money, A, the RNC is ineffective. B, it doesn't listen to its own base. It can't raise the amount of money it takes to win elections, as it's shown under Ronna McDaniel's leadership. And this hits at a larger issue. She said she's not going to give Vivek any money. I hear all too often states or counties. I'm a county party chair. I hear this all the time in Wisconsin. Oh, we can't go outside of our box. We can't go outside of our box because we're going to lose all our funding from the RNC and from the state party. Frankly, I've looked at the financial records for a lot of these places. They don't get anything from them. And if they do, it's extremely negligible and pathetic. The apparatus of the Republican Party is broken right now, and Ronna McDaniel is just the lipstick on the pig. So Vivek was 100% correct in going after her if we want to win elections.
That's a perfect overture with the lipstick comment. Let's go to the video of what came out yesterday morning.
I know Vivek's kind of newer to the party. He voted for Obama, so he may not know that. But this is something we're going to have to get right as a party. As a suburban woman, I get this.
Ronna gets on TV today on Fox Business and says that Vivek voted for Obama, which he never did. Like, he never voted for Obama. The guy's been, in fact, it's so funny. I talked to the chairman of Ohio where Vivek grew up. And when he was like 18, and I remember when I was 18, it was a long time ago, so much longer. I think I got 10 years on Driena. I got like 20 on Brandon at this point. But he's a young man. He comes straight out of high school, and he hits up the guy, Chairman Alex, who then was a judge. He was a really young judge, to get more involved with the Republican Party. So Vivek literally has been involved since literally high school, trying to get involved with the Republican Party. And this is the way that the National Party treats our wonderful, minority candidates that are running for president.
I think it honestly is. It's kind of like a racist undertone for her to assume that every current up and coming, political minority conservative used to be at some point a Democrat. Absolutely hilarious. It's kind of like a little Freudian slip.
She just made it up. She just makes stuff up.
Yeah, and I think it was just like a Freudian slip, just like the lady the other day on The View saying like, oh, if we don't have illegals, who's going to clean our toilets? Like, I feel like that's the same kind of like mental thinking that went on there. It's like, oh, he's a minority. He must have been a Democrat before. Of course he voted for Obama, and now he's just finally on our side. Like that's the assumption. And that's just how out of touch that lady is with what's going on and reality.
Yeah, and it's again just no excitement behind some of our top guys here. Driena, down the road, you were in Hialeah at a very special event. Tell us how it went. What did it look like?
So
what was it like?
It was so much fun. It was a Trump rally in my hometown of Hialeah. So Hialeah, I know it's not on the map for most people, but Hialeah is the place with the most Cubans outside of Cuba in the entire world. That's where I grew up. So I grew up kind of like in Cuba, but with freedom. And most of the crowd there was definitely in a similar demographic to mine. So a lot of locals that love Trump. That's also why so many candidates that, state candidates, DeSantis, they try to have a lot of events in Hialeah because it's a very strongly red neighborhood. So it was an interesting mix because usually you see these Trump rallies having, like full Americana. Even the music that's played at the Trump rallies is a little bit more like, Sweet Caroline, like just more that style. For this rally, you had a lot of Hispanic influence there, just a mesh of a bunch of different cultures. It was just really, really fun. And I got to see and network with a lot of local voices in the community that we've helped each other out throughout the years. Lots of people in my political class, you could say, people that I've known since college that, we graduated together and somehow made our way into politics, me through Turning Point USA, then Turning Point Action, others that went to work as legislative aides, and now they're, commissioners or state representatives. And it was just a sense of community. And so it was really, really fun to see everything up and close.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's really cool. It's really cool to see. I mean, like it's never one thing. And this is that's been kind of like actually made me a little bit sick to my stomach about this election cycle is this last election cycle, there's been a lot of Ron DeSantis taking credit for what's happened in Florida. And you look at like this rally, right? That's just happened right down the street from the debate in Miami, in the Miami area, Hialeah. And it's a mostly Cuban attended rally that these people love President Trump, They love him. And this is what's so crazy is like, who got elected on the coattails of President Trump down in Florida?
Yeah.
We got a couple of new congressmen down there, a congressman and a congresswoman, again, from the Cuban community that we've seen no bigger spike in Miami and the Cuban community than when Trump got in. And he's not Cuban, he's whatever, but like it's the message and it's the camaraderie and it's the, and that's contributed to some significant success and changes happening in Florida. Meanwhile, you have a couple other things like good policies, obviously by Ron DeSantis are great. Trump being down there is great. Moving down there is great. You have, you have the Democrats withdrawing all of their money out of Florida and putting it in Georgia and Wisconsin and Arizona. That's great. That's awesome. We want them to leave our state. We want them to stop doing this stuff. But, for one person to take credit, it's really stupid. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of support for DeSantis, but Trump's the OG, right? He's the one that I feel a lot of people credit for putting DeSantis on the map in the first place. And it's just, maybe it's a Hispanic community thing, but we truly believe in loyalty and in camaraderie. And I think that he would have gotten a lot of support, that same support from the Cuban community. We could have had rallies just as big for him 4 years down the line. If he had been a little bit more grateful to a man that, endorsed him and put him on the map and helped him win elections. And that's kind of how I personally feel, where, I wouldn't do that to somebody myself, somebody that helped me win an election, then backstab him and run against them later on. I feel like he didn't play his cards right. And I feel like that is the sentiment in the Cuban community and the South Florida community. We
Interesting.
could have both been our little superstars, but we're always gonna pick Trump over DeSantis, and even though he's done a pretty decent job as governor too.
Well, this is good transition, and let's throw up all three of us
Mhm.
on the screen here because we'll kind of stick through to this next topic, because your family comes from Cuba
Mhm.
with the commie roots.
Mhm.
We have Chairman Malley on here with us today, who has Eastern European roots, who comes from the commie roots, right? Which is the part of the reason why, and Brandon is you're a first generation American, right?
First gen.
So first generation American. So, and you're a first generation too, Driena?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
I was born here. Parents were born in Cuba.
Wow. I didn't even realize that. I thought you were second or third. That's
Mm-mm.
incredible. I mean, so this is a good transition to talk about Wisconsin, but, I don't think that normal Americans really understand how commies work. And this is part of the reason why so many people that have left the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, the former Soviet states, and come here are so boldly conservative, and they're never going to move, right? They're never going to move. It doesn't matter. And it's the opposite. They love a lot of them love President Trump. A lot love like a strong leader that speaks out boldly against Marxism and communism. And I think that's part of the reason why you see what you've seen down in Cuba, what we saw in Hialeah yesterday. But Brandon can speak directly to this, and I wanted to pull up. I don't know if we want to throw up on screen the drama that's unfolding, because we've talked about this now. I think 2 or 3 times. Megan Wolfe, the big bad wolf, we call her. So Megan Wolfe is the quote unquote nonpartisan election czar that was appointed, that has like completely torn Wisconsin apart, done the bidding of the left. She's a total self-avowed leftist, and she has been in that position. And now we have a supermajority in the legislature, right, in Wisconsin. And so our Speaker of the House and our Senate President that are there have like basically all authority to get stuff done, and including impeaching her, removing her from office. So Brandon, I don't know if you want to kind of give us the down low on what's going on there right now with Megan Wolfe and what's happening, and why it's taking so long for the Wisconsin legislature to get this woman out of this elections position, and why does it matter for the election next year?
Okay, so a little bit more about how we got here. There are 15 reasons why Megan Wolfe should be removed. All different violations of election law and Wisconsin statutes. These include maladministration. These include advocacy for drop boxes. Drop boxes are illegal in Wisconsin. The Supreme Court ruled after the 2020 election that drop boxes are illegal. She allowed them. I can go down the list, but I was there a little over a month ago when the Wisconsin State Senate, we have a supermajority there. State Senate voted 22-11 to get rid of her. As soon as they got rid of her, I barely got out of the building. Josh Kaul, Wisconsin's Attorney General, was already filing a lawsuit. He filed a lawsuit right away, and this whole thing is going to get caught up in the courts. So initially they said, in the assembly, the Speaker of the House said, we're not going to take this up because she no longer occupies the position. Well, that's not true. This is caught up in the legal system right now. We need to get her out as soon as possible so the maladministration of Wisconsin elections does not continue. Because the WEC is 3-3. And you've got 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats on there, everything that's tied up. And then the administrator just allows complete chaos and sides with the left on issues like drop boxes. Now we have a leftist Supreme Court in the state of Wisconsin that's trying to get rid of things like voter ID. If that goes to WEC, you can only imagine that they will allow for that to stand. there will be no voter ID in the state of Wisconsin. So time is of the essence. The legislature, specifically the House, is stalling on this because they just don't want to do it. They don't want to do it because the base is asking for it. It's really clear as I talk to people across the state, different county party leaders, grassroots patriot groups. They want her out. They have no faith in these elections, and they're not showing up for some of the local elections because they don't think their votes are going to count. Now, they may show up for the 2024 election if Donald Trump's on the ballot, but we're not going to win the state if the elections aren't clean. So the Republican Party of Dane County, led by our Fair Elections Committee, basically said to our Fair Elections Committee, what can we do to put pressure on the legislature to act on this? They came up with an open letter to the Speaker of the Assembly, and we released it. And we've gotten a lot of counties to sign on to this or put out their own letters, and it's been getting some attention. It got some attention on Wisconsin Talk Radio. They're feeling the heat. $100,000 was taken out against the Speaker on this issue. Ads in his district were taken out. He kind of freaked out. He said, okay, we'll take it up. That was last week. But this week he's already pivoted again and saying, we're not going to take it up.
Wow. Yeah. So, and it was the Dane County judge that originally blocked it, right?
Exactly. From
removing Wolfe. So this is why it's so epicenter. So those of you that are listening, Dane County is one of the most important counties in America. And if you probably don't know Dane County, but you know UW-Madison, you know University of Wisconsin Madison. Madison is in the center. It's the heart of Dane County. And it's a traditionally blue county mainly because of Madison. It's just been, but the rest of the state, for the most part, outside of Milwaukee, is pretty red and has been red for a long, long time. As Wisconsin's broken up into basically little townships that are mostly centered around a pub. You know, Wisconsin is better known for its pub atmosphere. I was shocked when I went to Wisconsin not that long ago, and I looked over and a 12-year-old was drinking a beer, you know, and I was like, what is going on here? And they're like, oh yeah, that's totally normal. You're allowed to do that as long as your parents are with you. True story. That's a state law. Most people are like, what? I can't believe that's true. But yeah, this is, so again, we've talked about Robin Vos. Robin Vos is the Speaker of the State Assembly. I say State House. It's the same as the State House of Representatives, State Assembly. And he is effectively one of the more moderate members of the State Assembly, and he has not moved quickly. So you have the situation that's happening and culminating in a lot of states where you have a good situation, a Republican trifecta maybe even, and a really bad Speaker of the House. We just saw this in Texas, right? When this whole thing was going down in Texas. We have this is like one of the absolute worst parts of what's happening in politics right now. No one understands or sees. The establishment consultants have tried to hijack these positions, specifically the Speaker of the House positions, because they're losing ground everywhere else. So we have, I think, an inordinate amount of really moderate speakers, which means that a lot of business isn't getting done when it comes to election integrity in particular. And this is like one of the most egregious things happening right now across the country. And so I can't applaud you more that in Dane County, where they're trying to block the removal of this woman, that the chairman, who's one of the youngest chairs in the country of the Republican Party there, who's also on our team here at Turning Point Action, Brandon, is fighting back against this. So great job, guys. Great job, Brandon. Keep up the good work with that. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or anything that listeners and people who follow us can help you out with?
Well, when you talk about the Speaker of the House or Speaker of the Assembly, depending on the state, it's almost like a special interest in and of itself embedded in the legislature that is the foil to Trump and everything that the base wants.
Yep.
And time again, our base doesn't show up because we're rejecting what the base wants. So you see that in Wisconsin. Dane County, though, we are about an 80-20 county. Ron Johnson did just enough here to survive the election. He got 22.5. This is a warning sign for everyone that cares about this country. Dane County is very important. We've gotten into this mentality. I saw it play out during our Wisconsin Supreme Court election, where our conservative candidate lost by 11, didn't want to take money from the state party, didn't want to actually engage in politics because he thought that someone running for the judiciary should be above that. His opponent clearly wasn't. One of my biggest issues is that we treat everything with such sanctity. Election day, boundaries around a county, boundaries around a state, like, oh, Dane County Republican Party needs help. If you don't live in Dane County, you can't help them. Or if you live outside of Wisconsin, you can't help. Or if you live outside of Florida, you can't help. Well, we got killed by 11 in April, the Supreme Court race. 95% of the leftist judges' money came from California and New York. So if we aren't going to break outside of that mindset that Republicans around the country have to focus on 10 target counties, including Dane, including Milwaukee. Wisconsin is the tipping point state, really, in my view, Arizona as well. If we don't get out of that mindset and invest and close the money gap where it counts, we're going to lose. So all the listeners out there that want to see Wisconsin go red, we could use your help, and check out danegop.org.
Thank you so much with that, Brandon. And this is actually a good transition. Sadie, if we could let's throw up that pie chart real quick. This is really important because Driena oversees a lot of our operations and works with our Georgians. You're in Wisconsin, Dane County. I'm right here in Maricopa County. So one of the big questions that we get all the time are, what are the most important places to win in order to win next year in 2024? And so Turning Point Action has actually done a full analysis based off of votes that need to be chased. And so this is kind of going to open up to our next topic, and I want to talk a little bit about that with you guys on the line here while we're talking about our Chase the Vote operation. But you look at this pie chart, and I want to explain it real quickly for everyone that can see it. If you're listening, I'm going to explain it out kind of verbally to you. There are thousands of counties across America. Between Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia, there's, I think, approximately 200 or so counties. And those counties, there's ones that are obvious that need attention, and there's some that are not so obvious that need attention. The way that Turning Point Action has been looking at this, we've been actually analyzing numbers. Our data team that actually works just about 100 yards away from where I'm sitting right now, that go through all the data right now, are crunching the numbers and going through to identify the precincts, precinct by precinct, the precincts that do not have, that have voters, that have Republican voters who do not vote in presidential elections. So what does this mean? They voted somewhere else, or maybe they voted for one of the presidential elections, but they didn't vote for the other one in between 16 and 20. And they're just sitting out there. There's votes ready to be grabbed. And this is really the story of Maricopa County, which is the most important county by the numbers, by the sheer numbers, because about I believe on that graph is about 230 precincts exists out there that have hundreds of votes. It's 237 total precincts that have hundreds of votes that have yet to be captured in each precinct. And we're talking with hundreds of votes, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of votes that can be captured if you just go to the door, say, are you a Republican? Yes. Are you too lazy to vote? Oh, yeah. Great. Let us help you vote. Second is Milwaukee. If we look at this, third is Waukesha, which is the suburbs of Milwaukee. Fourth is Cobb County in Georgia. You have Gwinnett, the ever important Gwinnett has outstanding votes. Pinal County, which is the suburbs of Phoenix. Brown County in Wisconsin, Where's Brown at? Mr. Chairman?
Green Bay.
That is Green Bay. That's Packer territory. That's Cheesehead territory. We got Cherokee in Georgia. Driena, do you know where Cherokee County is? I don't know where that's at off the top of my head.
It's more outskirts of Atlanta.
So it's
outskirts of Atlanta towards like,
it's
upper
the
upper
north.
right.
It's the northwestern, right?
Yeah.
Or northeast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can double check in the map, but they're all pretty close by. Fulton and Gwinnett, and they're all like
It's beyond
one
Gwinnett,
next to the
though,
other.
I think it's right next to Gwinnett. So it's up there. So it's basically Gwinnett territory. And then right there on the graph, we got Dane County. Mr. Chairman, Dane County, more important than Fulton County.
That's one of your not so obvious counties where it's so blue, you don't realize how many outstanding Republican votes are there because Republicans haven't invested there in forever.
That's exactly right. Your analysis is exactly right. And your analysis is what our analysis has proven. If you pull it up, just in precincts alone in Dane County, there are 36. Is that the number we've got on there? 36 precincts that have hundreds of outstanding votes. They're just waiting to be ushered in. And if we get those, are we going to win Dane County? No. But are we going to win the state of Wisconsin?
We're going to win the state of Wisconsin.
We're going to win the state of Wisconsin.
Points better, and we'll win.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So let's throw up that other graph real quick because this is the numbers graph. And so for those that can view this, we've got this on Rumble, and you can see this. And soon we'll be doing this live on Twitter as well, in addition to Rumble and YouTube. But these are the hard numbers. So when you go down and look, we'll go down to number 9 in Dane County, 36 Super Chase precincts, 1.82% of the total overall overarching number of precincts that we think we need to grab in order to make sure we win those 3 states. There's in total 460 precincts in Wisconsin. The number of the number of chaseable ballots there, 37,000 outstanding votes. So we believe there's an estimated amount of close to 40,000 Republicans who just don't vote in Dane County. 40,000. Look at that. That's almost a third of Maricopa County, which is the largest. You look at Milwaukee, has 73,000, huge county. Dane County is right up there, almost 40,000 votes. Waukesha is 56,000. This is how you win elections, folks. This is it. You identify the remaining outstanding ballots that are there, and you get Brandon on a white horse riding around town, helping people vote all day long. And this is where, again, we make the transition I want to talk a little bit about the Kentucky election that happened earlier this week, because a lot of people were like, this is part of the rage that existed against the RNC and Ronna and everybody else, was like, how the heck do we lose the governorship for Kentucky when there's so much pro-Republican, pro-conservative sentiment that exists? And it's this is the graph. This is the understanding that everyone has to have. And I want to make this comparison. Kentucky looked a lot like Arizona in 2022. So Kentucky this year looked a lot like what happened in Arizona last year. And I'll tell you why. So you have the situation. We didn't have an incumbent Democrat governor, but you have the focus of this is a winnable race for governor for Democrats. Why is this winnable? Well, it's just a numbers game, people. That's what it comes down to. There's 2 things the Democrats look at. 1, how can we manipulate the election? And 2, how can we chase the votes that we need to get in order to win? Those are the 2 things, right? We know they're manipulating elections. By the way, no one's saying that we should take our eye off the ball and stop trying to stop them from manipulating elections. We have literally hundreds of thousands of great patriotic Americans who are in process of doing that all across the states. But you still have to win. You still have to get the ballots in the ballot box in order to win. And if we take our eye off that because we're spending all of our time, just fighting the Democrats, that's exactly what they want. They want you to do that. They want you to get confused and tangled up in that process. So what does this look like? And I'm just going to break down the numbers really fast. You look at the results from the Kentucky election here, and I'm pulling it up here. The Kentucky election, I think, ended up being, hang on here, I just lost it. Kentucky primary results, governor. We have, hang on here. It looks like they called, I think it's right now, 694 to 627. Is that right? I think that's the final. So 694,000 to 627. Yep, that's it. So we're talking less than 60,000 votes separated the winner from the loser in Daniel Cameron. It's about a 5% difference. So 2.5% is what, flip-flopping is what makes the difference. Well, let's go through the quick math. What did I just show you on the graph with Dane County? Dane County has how many outstanding votes that are just sitting there waiting to be collected? 40,000 votes, right?
Which is almost double the margin that Trump lost by in 2020 statewide.
So Dane County alone could have saved the entire election, right? You look at Kentucky, this is the same thing. So you got Louisville, you got Lexington, as your big bases for Democrats. But just because they're big bases for Democrats doesn't mean there's not Republicans that are there that we could chase. So part of the reason why Democrats love off-election years in certain states is they can kind of take advantage of certain spots. And Louisville and Lexington have a ton of Republicans who didn't vote. I would venture to guess that there's probably over 100,000 just in those two. I don't have the numbers in front of me. We haven't done the research, but probably 100,000 plus chaseable votes just in those two metro areas. Forget the rest of the state. Forget the entire state of Kentucky that's much redder in different areas. So you put together the team, you get full-time people, full-time bodies that are assigned to those votes to go chase those votes. You win elections. Folks, this is what they did in Kentucky. This is what they did in Arizona. This is what they're going to do in Wisconsin next year. This is what they're going to do in Georgia next year. This is what they've abandoned in Florida because they know they can't win anymore, right? This is what they've abandoned in many parts of Ohio. They're going to target specific congressional districts, but it's just a numbers game. It's a equation, and now for them the number is, and this is manipulation too, folks. This is it. This is taking a body, going to a door, peer pressuring someone to vote that doesn't normally vote. Driena, what are your thoughts?
Well, this is, I have been a big supporter of the ground game of grassroots for a very long time. That's why I've been a part of, the Turning Point family instead of some think tank in Washington, D.C. Doors win wars. And I feel like we just need to lead by example. Everybody has the power to make a huge difference locally and in these areas, which we think are lost to the Democrats. I get it. Like, people feel like their vote doesn't count because they live in a really blue area. But overall, in the big picture, it absolutely does. And it just takes people who have enough humility, grassroots humility, to go out there and put in the work that, the RNC doesn't do, and knock some doors and, remind their neighbors to go out and vote. Even myself, my full-time job is with Turning Point Action. But on the weekends, I lead by example, and I feel like that inspires other people to do the same. I'm out there knocking doors in 80-degree weather in South Florida for my local candidates, for a local commissioner position that just happened here in the election, and he won by a huge margin. We just need that same kind of enthusiasm from other Republicans to get out there, door knock, chase the vote. And that's what we're trying to inspire here. And thankfully, I feel like Turning Point Action exists to do the job that the GOP hasn't done very well over the last few years. And hopefully we get enough people to work alongside of us, help us in any way they can, either by knocking doors, donating to us, so that we can put that money to work efficiently and seeing the results from it. So
Yeah.
I'm excited because I feel like we have a very strong game plan. We have competent people at the head of our organization that know the right places to target, and we've got good grassroots humility oriented people that are going to carry out those, those marching orders, and will be where it matters, out there knocking as many doors as we need to until we win.
Well, the crazy part is too, and Brandon, I'll kind of kick this over to you. There's parts of Wisconsin, people don't realize this. There are some counties in Wisconsin that are in the middle of nowhere. There's more cows than people probably. And seriously, there's it's America's Dairyland. You got more cows than people, beautiful, God's country in Wisconsin, where you have like 50% voter turnout in presidential elections, 60% turnout. And just FYI, in most of the suburbs and urban areas now where Democrats are doing this, they're getting 95% turnout in some of these precincts of their voters. And for us, we have rural areas in Wisconsin that there's sub 50% turnout of our voters and 10,000 votes just hanging out there. There's guys probably with Trump flags outside their house that don't vote. Like, that's how insane it is. Yeah. Those are the people we've got to build relationships with and go chase and win. Brandon, I don't know if you want to add to that, and we'll wrap up here.
So my family came from a communist country. I'm in politics fundamentally because I want to take ownership of this, of our politics, so that we don't cede the territory to the left. Ballot chasing is us taking ownership of our elections in our states, and if we do it in unison in the swing states, this is us taking ownership of the result of the presidential election. And Tyler, you were absolutely correct when you were talking about Kentucky and the urban areas, Louisville and Lexington. I believe the average statewide turnout for counties in Kentucky was 38%. Those two areas had 42%, and we missed out on a lot of Republicans. Then you take a look at a national map at over the 3,000 counties, including Wisconsin. Everything's red, except your couple of metro areas. The map of Kentucky, you had rural counties that were voting for the Democrat because Republicans didn't show up to vote and we didn't chase their ballots. In Wisconsin, it's interesting because I travel the state, not just Dane County. My turning point work takes me all around, and I try to give them vote goals for how many more votes they need to chase, and I look at the trend lines and what percentage they need to get to so we can carry the state. And it's just incredible because if you take the demographics of some of our Northwoods counties, size, population, age, and you look at counties in Georgia that are similar, or you look at counties in Florida that might be similar, we're getting 85% of the vote. In Wisconsin, we're only getting 65% of the vote in these counties. So the ballot chase is going to be absolutely critical. It's us taking ownership of our elections.
And that's it. That's the name of the game, is taking ownership. And thank goodness that we have young, staunch conservatives like you two who are running fundamentally circles around some of the old timers who are on their way out, more moderate, have left us in bad shape in some of our states, but turning this thing around, the ship around, so that we can win. Can't thank you enough for the work you're doing. And I wanted to leave everybody with this because we've gone over time, so we're long this week, but that's okay. We're going to be going long probably a lot of weeks moving forward in the future. A lot of people have been asking, what's the plan? So especially after all these calls for Ronna to resign, and other people are like, whoa, what's the game plan here? Well, the game plan is that we have to build this infrastructure outside the party. Stop relying on the parties to save you. Stop relying on candidates to save you. Yeah, that's the other thing too. We get a net benefit regardless of what anybody says. We've had a huge net benefit from Trump running of people who have never voted before who have shown up to vote. That's going to go away without Trump on the ballot running for president again. We've actually been quite lucky having 3 years of this in a row. It looks like that we're going to have the third election cycle in a row. We've got to build the machine that's going to be able to enable us to win regardless of who ends up on the ballot long term. And these are just the warriors to do it. So if you want to get more involved, we need you at TPAction.com. Get involved today. We are building the ballot chasing army. So a lot of people are saying, well, what can I do now? Because the election's not till next year. So I can't chase ballots, obviously, until the election rolls around. And I have to remind people of that because we talk about ballot chasing a lot lately. And they're like, oh, I want to get ballot chasing now. I was like, well, you can't until it's election time. So first and foremost is make a plan to vote. Register your neighbors. Register your whole family. Make a plan to vote, whether that's voting early, voting in person, voting in person on election day. Whatever your plan is, we're actually going to have cute little cards that we're going to be handing out in these key target states that are going to be reminders for people to remind themselves to vote. They're going to get a digital reminder to remind themselves to vote, whatever their plan is. Excited for that. 2 is become a precinct leader in your state. It's a precinct captain, precinct delegate, precinct committeeman, precinct chair, a central committee chair. We want you involved with the Republican Party. Why? There's only 2 parties, 2 major parties, and the Republican Party is half of those. So that is the pathway to win, and we need you involved. 3, join a Turning Point Action Coalition if you want. Go to coalitions.com or tpaction.com/coalitions and get involved today. There are specific precincts that we need coalition members to get involved with to help us with ballot chasing later on. And so we will be looking for members of the community to join there. 4th, we have our big events. We actually have a big event that we're going to be announcing in the coming weeks. That's going to be happening next summer, which is going to be our 2nd annual ActCon or Action Conference, which is going to be really exciting. I think I mentioned this. We're dubbing it the People's Convention. It's going to be about a month before the Republican National Committee's convention. And so we think you should come down to ours and celebrate and work with us. I think we're going to have our nominee that's going to be there. We'll have a lot of other things going on, but we're going to be announcing that information soon. Get ready, buckle up. It's going to be a lot of fun. And last but not least, but chase the vote, is that this is all preparation. In Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia, we're going to be putting together a ballot chasing apparatus there in the additional key target states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Ohio, Florida, Iowa, North Carolina. We want you involved. You can sign up today to be added to the list so you can receive notifications. You can download the Turning Point Action application today. If you go to on your app store on iPhone, or if you go to the Google Play Store, you can look up Turning Point Action. Now, don't get that confused with TPUSA, our sister organization. Go to Turning Point Action's application, download it. In the upper left-hand corner, click the tab. It's going to ask for your phone number, and you will have access to activism materials in all 50 states to start talking to your neighbors. You can go knock doors. You can make phone calls. You can make text messages to them. And then you ultimately also will be able to write postcards. And all of this will be saved in your history so you can start building a relationship with those that are in your neighborhood. There's no excuses anymore, folks. There's no more excuses. You can get involved today. The application's wonderful. We've spent a significant amount of resources to get it to where it is today. Well, with that, Driena, Brandon, I don't know if you wanted to give us one last sentence in your sign off, and we'll be out of here. Driena, you first.
Thank you guys again so much for having me. And honestly, all I can say is that it's more than just social media and podcasts, which we all do. Like everybody that you see here, Tyler, myself, we do the difficult work, the door knocking, all of that, grassroots work is truly what makes a difference. And hopefully we can inspire you guys as well to lead by example and show your neighbors, your community, how it's done, how elections are won. get out there, get involved. There's no excuses. Download the Turning Point Action app, have access to, the information of local Republicans, make sure that they are out there and voting, and anything that you guys want to ask, you can, we have the resources to help out. So if you just decide to take that first step to get involved, we'll have staffers there to guide you into the process and lead you into, the next thing you can do. So please reach out. And thank you guys again for having me.
Brandon, Mr. Chairman.
Elections recently haven't gone the way that we would have liked. It's easy to get demoralized, but the only way to save this country is for you to get involved, for you to take ownership of your elections in your states, for us to do it in unison. Join us so we can be a movement and win the next election. Thank you for having me on.
Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. It will not be the last time that we'll see Brandon and Driena on with us on Swing State Update. We're going to be doing a lot more. Big announcement while Austin's gone. We're going to be moving to 2 days a week, starting, I believe, in January. Producer Sadie is nodding her head, I think, in January. Yep, there she is. Going live also, so we'll be building that live. We will have all of our staff at Turning Point Action hopefully on that Monday live stream, accessible to those and the key 10 target states that we operate out of, which is a lot of fun because it's great to put a face to a name and have these guys on. And so we're looking forward to having you join us on Swing State Update through the holidays, and then doubling up at the beginning of the year before we start tripling up as we head towards summer of next year. But God bless. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll look forward to having you next week here on Swing State Update.